Are you going to have a digital clone that you can just send places in the future? Is face-to-face meeting in real life going to become a thing of the past? I don't know, but one thing I do know that AI and digital twins and AI avatars are exploding on the scene. They are literally everywhere, even on this show yesterday. All right, so I'm excited to talk about me, myself, and AI, how digital avatars will impact our work. So, what's going on, y'all? My name's Jordan Wilson, the real human version, coming to you with Everyday AI. This show is for you. If you're new here, we are a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday people learn and leverage generative AI to grow their companies and grow their careers. So, if that sounds like you are in the right place. Make sure, if this is your first time, check out our show notes on the podcast or drop a line if you're joining us on the live stream. So before we get into today's topic, make sure, if you haven't already, why the heck haven't you, go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for that free daily newsletter. We'll be recapping, as we do every day, our audience our guest for the day and all the takeaways, because I think we're going to be dropping a lot of knowledge today. So before we get into that, we're going to start with the AI news, as we do every day. So first piece of AI news, OpenAI is shutting down tools for a political candidate that's just running on an AI platform. So a mayoral candidate in Wyoming has grabbed headlines this week after he filed for office with the intention of delegating all legislative decisions to a chatbot, causing controversy and drawing attention to the role of AI in politics. So Victor Miller filed paperwork for an AI chatbot named Vic to run for mayor of Cheyenne, Wyoming, powered by the OpenAI technology. OpenAI did shut down Miller's access for using ChatGPT to interact with voters, citing a violation of policies against political campaigning. So AI's role in politics obviously raises concerns about responsible use as a technology as it outpaces legal and regulatory frameworks. And hey, if I'm being honest, I wouldn't have minded that. Maybe we should just give a lot of these political decisions to large language models, right? If people are using them right. All right. Speaking of models, Meta has released a host of new AI models aimed at researchers. So Meta's FAIR group is a publicly releasing several new research artifacts focused on innovation, collaboration, efficiency, and responsibility in the field of AI. So key models and techniques were just shared, I guess, on their Twitter or X account. So here is kind of what these new models are. And, if you don't know Meta's FAIR, it is their fundamental AI research arm. So they released Meta Chameleon, which supports mixed model input and text-only outputs. They released Meta's multi-token prediction for code completion. Then Meta Jasco, which is a generative text-to-music model, and their Audio Seal, which is an AI watermarking model. So we'll have more on that in the newsletter. And then our last piece of AI news for the day, NVIDIA has taken over the most valuable company in the US. Oh, weird. I told you guys about this a year ago before it happened, right? So NVIDIA's market value has surpassed $3.3 trillion, making it the most valuable company in the world by market cap. So this is due to high demand for its AI chips and obviously a successful stock rally here in the US. So NVIDIA's market value has tripled since 2021, primarily fueled by the demand for its AI processors, its GPU chips. The surge in market value has made NVIDIA the most traded company on Wall Street and has caused it to overtake tech giants like Microsoft and Apple. And I don't think they're done yet. All right. So there's going to be a lot more AI news. So make sure to sign up. Go to youreverydayai.com. But today we're here to talk about kind of the future of AI digital avatars, of this kind of digital twin technology. I'm excited for our guests for today. So please help me welcome on the show. There we have it. We have Gen Ukaj, who is enterprise sales at Hour One. Gen, thank you so much for joining the Everyday AI show.
Jordan, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh man. And I kind of teased this in the intro there. We'll get to it later. I actually had my Hour One digital clone going yesterday. But before we dive into that, Gen, can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your role at Hour One and a little bit about the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hour One is a virtual human company. We take real people and we clone their image so that you can use them in video communications. In a nutshell, we make real fake people, and it's fun. What what do I do for the company? My role is essentially to meet with businesses and people who are interested in cloning themselves for their own commercial purposes, talking them through the process of what that looks like, and discussing with them like sort of like the values behind having a digital I was gonna say living, breathing, but it lives and breathes, I guess, in the virtual world version of themselves.
Mm. And for those that maybe aren't aware, again, I think it's important first we kind of define things, because I think there's always some confusion, right, when
Mm.
people talk about AI avatars and digital twins and AI clones and deep fakes, right? Because it seems like people can get confused over what's what. So maybe could you just explain, like, what is a digital clone and AI avatar versus cloning yourself in AI? Just tell us, like, define those things for us, just before we dive into them a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So I think the word avatar originally comes from like video games in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where you could have like kind of like this virtual identity of yourself. And back in those times, and even today, people would use like fake names and they'd basically run on the internet and have their own personas. Um, then when we talk about like deep fakes, let's go to virtual humans first. So like what we do specifically is we create photorealistic clones, or what we call virtual humans, that look like you, but also not like a 3D model, not like a gamified version of you, which I think also gets associated with avatars in general. Um, and people create those with their own consent for their own purpose. They have their own ideas about what it is they want to use them for, and they're fully involved and fully consensual, right? Then we go into deep fakes, which is like when other people do it to people, when other people create these kinds of like virtual avatars or realistic looking avatars of people who don't want to be cloned, who don't give their permission to do so, and they use those for nefarious reasons, right? So we have the gamified, the realistic, and then the nefarious, I guess is the way that I would put that.
Yeah, that's a great that's a great way to, like, send the or kind of draw the line in the sand, so to speak. So, I want to dive in a little bit more about hour one and how people can actually, kind of the middle one, create digital versions of themselves. I personally went through the process, which was really cool, to work with the hour one team. They sponsored the show yesterday, but even very visible people, such as NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, had an hour one clone at the Computex conference. So maybe again, can you just talk a little bit about what that process looks like, and maybe some of the use cases why someone might even want to create a digital AI avatar of themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to creating a virtual clone, like the one that you'd made or the one that Jensen did, the the process by doing so, in order to get the best looking, most realistic clone, is going to be through video production, right? So like when we capture video, or when video is captured of a person, that's like what they look like in real life. So the better the camera, the better the lighting, the more realistic and the more lifelike your clone is going to look.
Mm.
Why would somebody do this, right? One, I hate to say it, but it's because it's cool. It's super cool. Like people like doing it because it's awesome. That's the first reason. The second reason is because there's a ton of different use cases and business cases around doing so, right? Especially if you're a guy like yourself or a guy like Jensen, who's a busy person who has a lot of different things that you need to do in a day. Getting in front of a camera every single time you need to create some kind of video communication can be a challenge, right? Especially if it's one of those days. Like no matter how many cups of coffee you're having, you're not waking up. You have to go through the script a million times. Maybe your voice and your excitement just isn't there that day. Digitizing that and being able to reduce the number of takes, re- like realistically down to one take, to get a video out there, it's a huge time saver for people who are busy. The second thing that I put out there is just broadening your audience. When you're using things like AI and you have a digital copy of your voice, especially a versatile one that can speak multiple languages, now instead of like popping subtitles on a screen or doing something like that, you could take Jordan. Jordan could start speaking Chinese to his Chinese audience French to his French audience, and really personalizing the content, showing the viewers out there in your case that you're aware of them, that you care for them, and that you want to do something that's more personalized for them,
Mm.
right? So it's personalization at scale, it's time savings, and it's cost savings too at the end of the day, because video production for most people, I know obviously you have a ton of video, you have awesome video crew. Your green screen looks like it's way better than mine. I'm like chopping out in the background over here. Um, just saves people a ton of time, right? And at the end of the day, the bottom line as well.
Mm. And let's just go ahead and do this. I didn't plan on showing, but maybe for our live stream audience, if you did miss yesterday, I'm just going to go ahead and play here. Maybe just a second of my couple seconds here of my digital clone that I made with Hour One. So if you missed it yesterday, you don't have to go back. So here, let's just go ahead and kind of watch and listen here just for a second. So I actually don't know if I have audio on, but here is my digital clone, at least for our live stream audience. It looks super realistic. People, we're kind of joking around this morning and saying, hey, like, how do we know if this is you, Jordan? Is this the future? Is this the AI version? But it is so realistic. It even got, all my forehead wrinkles and all of those things. So, I'm wondering, again, can you just talk us through different use cases for people who are using this, right? Like, what are people ultimately using it for? Because yes, you can use it for anything, but what are some of those most common use cases that customers are coming to Hour One with?
So on our side, we're truly like a tool that can be used by, if we're looking at it from a business perspective, pretty much any department has some kind of use case for Hour One. Like I'm a salesperson at Hour One, right? So a lot of what I'm using it for is to send personalized communications to people that are talking with us about doing work with us and projects with us. So I'll send them messages instead of sending something like a traditional recap email or like a proposal over email. I'll walk them through a presentation with my avatar, like send them a cool video to recap the conversation and kind of like really send it from an idea to like more of like a concept that they can really put themselves in and kind of see the future of working with us personally, right? Marketing teams use it for content. We see a lot of like, especially like businesses that are strapped for cash, at least a lot of local and small businesses too. Like if you're a small, medium-sized business and you have to pay someone $10,000 to shoot a commercial every single time, might as well, go the other direction, be able to create tons of advertisements and ads using your Hour One character, or taking like a really popular person in your company and creating a virtual clone of them so that you can do all that just from your own computer instead of, going to the local place, spending a day and a half, 2 days, 3 weeks making ads. Training videos, huge use case. So when you think about especially large companies that have a lot of different geographies and you want to make videos for each geography, you might either have different policies or policies might be changing all the time. It's a lot easier to edit video when the primary driver of it is a text prompt. And it's a lot easier to make videos in multiple languages if you don't have to find people who speak those languages and you can just speak them yourself. Last one I'll say is like media is a huge one too. So for anybody in the audience that might have seen the Reid Hoffman avatar or the AI Reid Hoffman, him talking to his clone, this is like probably one of our biggest examples of people creating content, like engaging content. And then we also have you, Jordan, who did very, very similar thing. So you have a ton of opportunities there too, right? We see like this emerging like case around news, which we've actually been doing for like a couple of years now, where you can create content with a virtual twin pretty much automatically. Like imagine getting a story out there faster than anybody else, because now you don't have to get into a studio. Now you don't have to go on site. You can collect footage, drop your avatar into a video, put a script in there and generate a video. Pretty much being the first one to break a story, right? If you think about it from the news angle.
Yeah, I like that. And you brought up so many great use cases that I hadn't even necessarily thought about, right? And now that I have my digital AI Jordan, it's like, oh, maybe I should start doing all of these things, right? Like speaking different languages, sometimes not having to, kind of quote unquote get camera ready. I think there's so many great use cases, but I'm wondering, because I'm sure you guys get a lot of like off the wall requests, like people asking, or wanting to use AI clones of themselves for, wild reasons. Can you share any of those with us? Or maybe what are some of the most, strange requests or stories that you've heard about for people wanting to use an AI avatar that way?
Yeah. Caveat here is my opinions are my opinions. So, I'm just a guy. I don't know everything, but some of the weirdest ones that I've heard, weird's, I guess, harsh. Some things that I didn't think would be great use cases. There was recently someone who came to me and said that they wanted to create a therapist using a language model that would interact with people. Why do I think that that's a bad idea? Um, I'm not perfect, right? Like I've gone to therapy before. I think everybody at one point in their life should, just to see, I don't want to burden all my friends and my family with my trauma. You know what I mean? So the idea that like a person's going to be comfortable interacting with a bot that they know is a bot and sharing their personal feelings with them, that level of empathy kind of just misses, right? When you think about things like that, there's not like a direct replacement. Like I think a lot of times people want things to be super cheap, super efficient, and they get dollar signs in their eyes, and they don't think about the fact that humans still like talking to humans. This isn't like a human replacement program. Um, that was a weird one. I'm trying to think what else. Uh, I don't know why I can't stop thinking about that one. That one really.
Yeah, that one is super super interesting. Yeah, and I like what you said there again. That humans still like talking to humans, right? But I guess one of the downsides to that is not every human has the capacity or bandwidth to talk to everyone that they may want to, right? Which is why I think this technology is booming. And speaking of it, right, like I've seen a lot of stories and news articles recently that people said, oh, in the future, you're not even going to attend meetings, right? Like now there's AI meeting assistants where you can have your Zoom AI or your Teams, Microsoft Teams AI, or there's all these AI note takers. But it might even go even further in the future where instead you just send like an AI clone, right? Where do you see, the future of this technology going? I'm not going to hold you to it and, tell you to, place it on the hour one roadmap. But when we take a broader look at, where the digital twin and AI avatar, where that industry is heading, where do you see it going?
That's a really good question. Um, just to preface it with like the universe that we really operate in is business to business. So I think about a lot of the use cases that like where we play in the most and what our customers are super excited about. And then I'll also dovetail it with like, I guess like some things that I just see out there in like the consumer world too, right? So like I see like this big, big, big open opportunity for like where big companies want to have like some sort of central figure, like a bot within their own universe or at their own company that they can go to and ask questions to, kind of like just like a source of knowledge, but it's like a person, right? So instead of like trying to get in touch with people at the company who might know answers to questions about things like that, whether that's HR, whether that's leadership or who it is, you can go and interact with or just type a question to like your central bot that can quickly get you answers like in the company sphere, right? Like your dedicated knowledge person. Like so then like the push for that comes to like this real time sense, right? A lot of companies are super interested in like the real time live interactive avatar stuff. So ultimately, that's kind of like the holy grail for every company that's in our space. Is getting to like real time stuff. When it comes to like not attending meetings and doing stuff like that, that's a big talking point that a lot of people like to say. Um, Hot take too, I also think that's a little weird. I think that like if you can't be at the meeting and then you depend on the notes to go to the meeting, we're gonna get into this cycle of like, are meetings necessary, not necessary? I think it's super important to be present in meetings when they're important. We've all been in meetings that we all know could have been emails, not to be cliche. Um, but yeah, so like the main use cases I see around it, like kind of going forward, is being even more personal. Like as like this technology is evolving so fast. Like in a year, avatars are gonna be so real that people are gonna wonder if videos that they're watching on TV are AI generated or not.
Mm.
Which is mind blowing and crazy, right? Um, you'll be able to really, really, really spread your time. Like marketing use cases are really going to explode in the next year or so. Personalized sales communications are really going to explode in the next year or so. And then the closer and closer things get to real time, you'll see like fast food chains deploying customer service, like cashiers, like just on video, taking people's orders or being
Mm,
able to like check out with like a virtual person online when you're shopping on Amazon or something like that. Like that's kind of how I see it going on the business front,
mm.
really in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and again, so many things there that we can dive deep into, and just as a reminder to our audience, if you're joining us live midway through, we have Gen Okai, who is in enterprise sales at Hour One. One thing, and please, if you have questions, get them in now before we start to wrap here in a couple. But one thing I think about is the ethical concerns, and right, you said this technology is going to get so good that people are going to have a hard time, knowing if something is real or not, right? Like you can maybe be in the future, be on a Zoom call or interacting, with an AI avatar on a customer's website and not even know if it's real. So what are maybe some of those ethical considerations that, both companies who are using this technology should think about, and then also just the average person out there, like what are all of those considerations that we should keep in mind?
Yeah, so like any industry that's gonna like really break ground, the laws eventually will catch up with any industry like this. So it's up to the companies, I think, on the front end to build a ground of ethics. What I really like about what we do as a company is we always disclose when it's an avatar that's in any kind of communication. We recommend to our customers that they do the same, right? So when you're putting content out there that's generated with an AI avatar, especially as these things become more and more uncanny, I think it behooves the person who's putting them out there to be like, this is AI generated. What we see too, by the way, when you do that is people get a lot more excited about it versus when you tell people that it's you and then they find out later that it's AI, they're like, oh, like these guys lied to me. They're liars. Terrible. But no, like, so that's like one of the biggest things as far as like practices. Then the other thing behind like just the technology itself, right? Like avatars are built off of software that work natively on their own platforms. So something that I just want to say they give people like some level of comfort is when avatars are being created by professional companies like Hour One, they're being created on our tool. That avatar can't be used outside of our software. It can't be like you can't like take your avatar and then like program it into some other tool. It's built on our the entire structure of the software and the hardware is completely like run by us, right? So these people that are cloned, like Jordan, gave us their consent to clone their image. They have complete control over how it's used. If anybody else at their company can use it, if they want to give that access to other people. So all that stuff is completely, taken care of in a way where it's completely ethical and that nobody's running away with your avatar. Dovetail that with all the companies that are doing the deep fake stuff, they don't necessarily have the kind of infrastructure like to do that, to get to that really, really hyper realistic one. I don't know if you've ever seen like those Barack Obama, Joe Biden memes
Mhm.
on Instagram. One, hilarious, just saying, they're really funny. Two, they don't look real. Like you can tell, it looks almost like a cardboard cutout of them kind of like box talking to each other. That stuff is never going to fool anybody at the end of the day. And the companies that like really, really try to invest in deep faking other people's images will eventually get shut down just on the ethics alone, right? No one wants to live in a universe where your image can just be taken and stolen from you.
Mm. And maybe even on the flip side, again, I'm glad you again brought up deep fakes and ethical use, and having to consent and say, hey, this is how we're going to use it, this is who can access it, this is what it can be used for. I think that's super important, but there's maybe a flip side, and I kind of saw Tara here with a comment saying this would be great for dementia patients to see familiar faces, and also Dutch with a comment here just kind of talking about how AI can help with for accessibility for those maybe with a speech impediment, people who are blind, deaf, neurodivergent, etc. Maybe can you talk a little bit about those use cases, which I hadn't even really processed a lot, and how this can actually maybe increase human connection with loved ones, or for people maybe facing certain disabilities.
Yes. Touchy subject on the latter part. The first part's a really, really cool use case for this stuff. When you think about healthcare and the healthcare industry, one, just to say you're not going to replace surgeons or doctors with AI avatars and robot like to start like even if you have the best robot outside of this category, you still need somebody who's a trained professional to monitor and make sure everything's going smoothly with that. Opening up access to care for people, especially in a world where the economy is like dollars are super inflated and access to like income is like is kind of widespread, lowering the barrier to get good quality care from something that's built off of like a really really fleshed out language model, or like giving somebody the ability to I forget what that person's name was, but it's just a really really great call out and a good idea, like dementia patients or people, just so that they one, see familiar faces, or two, be able to slow down the speech of somebody that they're talking to so they can fully understand it, to improve accessibility, all that stuff. Really really good use cases for this kind of technology. The last piece of that, this is a little bit of a hot take, so whoever asked the question, please forgive me if this is not nice of me to say. There is some like kind of ethical concern, if you think about bringing back dead people. To your question before, we have had a lot of people be like, "Can you like I have like a bunch of pictures of XYZ person in my like, can you reanimate them and bring them back to life?" kind of thing. Without getting my opinion too far in there, I, there's something to be said about that, like and putting all spirituality and religious kind of like things aside, like opening the door to that is something that a lot of people should consider, just about like how healthy is that mentally,
Mm.
and all of those kinds of things, right? So just to say.
Mm. I love this. We're tackling, kind of the elephants in the room, because I think people always think about that. And there's always stories, right, about how AI can, help you, talk with your loved ones or interact with loved ones, clone their voice. But, I love what you said there again about there's also, other like moral or ethical implications that you kind of have to think about, and, the impact that this can have, because there's, tremendous upsides, but also, potential downsides if you don't use this, in the kind of I won't say correct way, because there is no correct way, but if you don't use it in kind of an ethical and moral way. Again, I'm curious, how do maybe even you or other people on your team, I mean, do you use this own technology, right? Does anyone on your team have clones and avatars that you use out in the wild for different use cases? I love asking people this, either how they use generative AI in their day to day, or, hey, what are, even internal use cases of your own tool that maybe you all use?
Yeah, so as a company where we make virtual humans day in and day out, pretty much everybody at the company has their own avatar. We use them for internal comms every Friday. Like the leaders will like put out videos of like weekly updates and like like cool things that happen at the company, using their avatars, just like to kind of like as part of like our end of week like sort of recap. That's like one like internal use case. Each like all the salespeople use their avatars in communications with clients. You got to live and breathe what you do, right? So there's that. Out in the world, I'm not gonna lie, I've like made like goofy content on my Instagram channel for like my friends and family who like are super curious about what I do with my avatar, which is fun to sort of make. And then like as far as like other things, like we have this guy at our company, his name's Ariel. He's like one of the smartest people like I've ever met in my life. He's just like an AI like tech genius. But he has like kind of like a meme channel running on his LinkedIn where he puts out like fun AI memes, not just using his avatar, but just using our platform and using like our content out there. Like these are like some different, interesting ways, right? Then the same classic ways that our customers use it, we also use it. We use our avatars for marketing. We use them for sales. We use them for training videos internally. And we sort of run the gamut as far as like it really boils down to this. Any kind of video communication that requires a real person, there's a use case for this kind of technology for anything that boils down to really just that core
Hmm.
set of requirements.
Yeah, so again, we've gone a little bit of everywhere in this conversation, which I've really enjoyed, right? Because
Mm.
we've talked about different use cases, for AI avatars or digital clones. We've talked about the difference between deep fakes and avatars and ethical and moral considerations, and also a little bit about the future of the technology and where this space is headed. So maybe as we wrap up here, what's that one takeaway that you hope people can remember or kind of glean from this conversation, at least when it comes to how digital avatars will impact our work? What should people know and remember?
I think that the one biggest takeaway is that the main purpose of this kind of technology, and really all technology that's good technology as a whole, is to help people lower their access to doing things that only traditionally in the past that only like mega rich, mega wealthy people could do, right? So if you're a small business out there and you want to start marketing heavy, but you don't have a six-figure advertising budget, avatars and creating a digital clone of yourself is going to dramatically help you do that. If you're a big company and you're looking to really broaden the scope of the communications that you have internally, but you don't necessarily have all the resources to make videos in German or in French if you're a US based company or vice versa. Like this kind of technology can help you recognize the different teams that you have in your organization. If you're a small sales team and you can't necessarily sit in front of a camera and shoot 100 videos to reach out to 100 people every day, now you can just do that based on with text on your own computer using your own image, right? So the one thing that I want to say is like while the AI, especially in like the last 2 or 3 years, it's gotten like kind of scary, the core purpose of this kind of technology, and again, and good technology as a whole, is to give people more access to do more things, which is really what it is that we're all about.
Mm. I'd love to see it. This is so much great information. Again, thank you so much for joining the Everyday AI Show and sharing your insights and knowledge with us all. We really appreciate your time.
Pleasure to be here again, Jordan. Thanks again for having me.
All right. And hey, as a reminder, everyone, we went over a lot, and there's some of the questions I didn't get the chance to get to. Don't worry, we'll be answering those in the newsletter. Like, hey, Tara said, how can I get one? Yeah, we have information for you. Our one is a sponsor of the show. So we got a little deal for you guys too. So make sure to check out the newsletter if you haven't already at youreverydayai.com. Be breaking down today's episode in a lot more detail, more insights, and more AI every single day. Keep tuning in. Keep joining us. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.